Getting real.
It is getting real. This is me, Jurian, and I have my very, very beautiful friend, my gorgeous friend, Maryan. Te, kuya, ate. No, this is my friend, Maryan. Of course, she's in the Philippines, and we're here to collaborate on doing a vlog about or on independency. And yeah, this is just very spontaneous, chit chat. Two friends, two independent women chit chatting. So
To
yeah,
trying to be independent women.
struggling independent women.
Struggling.
We are going to be talking about independence, right? Like how independence is a huge part of being a woman and being just a human being. You're not
Yeah.
just about us women, but how it actually is important. But yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
be talking about that.
How independence shapes our values, our decisions, and our totality as human beings. And yeah, and all of those things. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for like an hour, 2 hours of
Like,
this discussion.
or shall I say 24-hour discussion? Because this is our first virtual video catch up ever.
Ever. We've
And
been
you guys
talking
are
only
very
on
lucky
Instagram.
because
You're gonna
and you
witness
guys
this.
are very lucky because you're included in this discussion. It's not just about us being friends, being colleagues before, but this is about us being women, struggling to fit in this society, and then this is us trying to share who we are becoming, who we are trying to become. And yeah, I'm getting excited.
Let's start with the introduction, right? Like, yeah, how can we define independence personally? Like, how do we actually define independence?
When you say or when you talk about independence, for me, it's really a broad thing. It's relative, for our country, specifically in the Philippines. Just, just a history check. Women are, being subjected to being told to become submissive to men, right? And independence is really a gift for us Filipinas. Oh my god, how do I say this? There's so much in my mind that I cannot come up with a sentence that will actually define what independence is. But for me, independence is not just about being financially independent. I guess independence for me is being capable of controlling your circumstances, not really controlling what will happen, but
Managing.
controlling your reactions over those circumstances, controlling your mindset, controlling your emotions to finally come up with a sound decision. And that's really what independence means to me, being independent from the outside world, from the outside noise. So
Yep.
that's it
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, I think, what you're trying to say there is that being, or like having like a space just for yourself despite everything that's happening around, right? And yeah, for me, I think it's about being self-reliant and trusting yourself in like whatever you do, and just really enjoying solitude. Like, I really love the definition of, being independent as being okay on your own,
Yeah.
and being confident and being okay, like whatever outside or external factors there is to the world, like, our, as you've said, like the history of where we come from or where we grew up, our family uh dynamic, or even cultural aspects to that, right? And financial aspects. So it's just about uh having trust, or trusting yourself that you're able to go through and actually, how do I say, uh, come through like all of these external things that might be happening around.
Yeah, and I would love to add on that solitude thing because just recently, I guess this pandemic is like a blessing in disguise because if this hasn't happened, I think I wouldn't appreciate solitude even better. Like, yeah, I started to appreciate how being alone gives more time for self-reflection, for, like reflecting on the values, reflecting on who you really are. Yeah.
100%. Yes, definitely. Sometimes we're forced in many ways to be on our
Yeah.
own. And that's the perfect time to make it as an opportunity, right? For us to actually use it for ourselves and to focus on ourselves. So, yeah, moving on to the next question we have. When did you learn that you want to be independent? Or maybe we can rephrase this as when did you learn, yeah, that independence would be a very important aspect of our lives, right? So do you want to answer that first?
Well, for me, I guess I started to become independent the moment I entered college. I was away from my family,
Yeah,
and even the decision to study away from them is actually my decision. Yeah, my father was against it at first. He was so worried about me. He was so protective, and he was worried because I might get culture shock, the probinsya thingy,
pregnant.
the provinciana culture, like, oh, you're not gonna make it to the city, or you're not gonna be okay there because the people in that place are different from the people in our hometown. Yeah, but I really talked to my father and I said that how would I know if I can if I will not try, right? So that was the very day that I realized that I really want to be independent, not just from my parents, but independent in making the decisions that I think is good for me and the future that I'm gonna make for everyone. How about you,
Yep.
Ate Jai? When did you start to feel that you wanted to be independent?
Yeah, I think for me it's actually a conditioning in a way. I think it's been conditioned, or this is something that I have
Mm-hmm.
realized subconsciously, because as a child, like I felt like I have always like been given my time to just like be on my own. Like, yeah, I could
Mm-mm.
go on about like my whole family dynamic and how I kind of
Yeah.
like cope up as a middle child. But definitely I think it's also the time when I realized, like, socially, like before, I think uh like I'm always, even if I'm not with family, like I'm always surrounded with friends and like people around. So there's like a lot of, yeah, external noise, right, or outside noise, and that kind of like became a part of me. But at the same time, sooner or later I realized that not everyone can be with me in like my life journey, or even just for example, a simple example of like eating
Yeah.
out. Like I cannot always invite my friends together eating out, or I cannot always have my
Yeah,
friends
that's
with me
true.
when I
This-
want to go somewhere. So yeah, the realization that not everyone can be with me all the time whenever I want. So I have to actually be okay, just being on my own, and um, you know, like kind of like enjoy my own time and be okay just being with
Mhm.
my own company. And yes, so I mean, as a child, or the way that I was telling you earlier about the conditioning, because I grew up, as a middle child, right? And we all know about like
Mhm.
the middle
Mhm.
child syndrome, wherein you're kind of like in
Syndrome.
between, yeah, in between different attentions. So you're used to like have, or I kind of just got used to have my own space as well. And yeah, I think uh yeah, I think that's it basically. And seeing
Yeah.
my family as well, like I've been very observant, like seeing my family and how the family dynamic is very dependent on each other. Like we live near each other, like even just that, the idea that we live near each other, like I live in a compound, and I live with my grandmother, and like my grandmother or my other relatives are next to me. So we kind of like got used to the dependence on other people, like even on like very small things, like if you don't have food the next day, and you just go to the next house and ask for uh things, right? So yeah, I think that's it. I'm not sure exactly if
Yeah,
that's
and just to
to
add,
answer that.
I
Mhm.
can really relate to that, middle child syndrome. Though not the middle child syndrome actually, but with the Filipino setting, I guess being a child of Filipino parents is actually a challenge just because of our culture, our traditions, and the parenting system of our parents. They tend to be really protective, or they want to have control over their children, right? And it's really hard to let go of their children even if they're already married. They still try to meddle with arguments or whatsoever. And striving to be independent in a Filipino setting is really a different thing.
Yep, yep.
It's harder than you think, right? Compared to other countries.
So yeah, the next question is, what motivated you to be independent?
Motivation, I guess when you say motivation, there are two factors like external and internal. Firstly, I was motivated to become fully independent because I was born to be independent, I guess.
Yep.
I guess that's the nature of firstborn children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the eldest in the family, so that's no question. I guess it's run in my being, in my totality as the
It's part
first
of who
child
you
in our
are.
family. And yeah, and I guess I found the need to be independent because as a child, I find it hard to be heard in our family. My parents would tell me that, oh, you need to be quiet. You don't need to say something because we will decide on your behalf, or we will plan everything for you. And yeah, you are our child and we are your parents. But
Sit back and relax.
older, as I get older, I guess it's really my nature to find a way for myself, to find a chance to express me being me. Like, yeah, I'm sort of really, choleric. No, not really choleric, but choleric with my will
Mm-hmm.
as a person. And one motivation is that I hate asking help from people. It's one of my, I don't think if it's a bad habit, but I don't like to ask anything from anyone. Yeah. And it really was a struggle for me when I got into a relationship, because you really have to give your partner
Mm-hmm.
a chance to help you out, right?
Yep.
Because how he's gonna express himself if you will, like push him down. Oh, don't do that for me. Don't do stuff for me because I can do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and also, as the eldest in the family, you really have to plan things out because you got the biggest chunk in everyone's
Responsibility.
responsibility. You have the biggest share of the table. You have to put the biggest share on everyone's plate, I guess. So yeah, that was one of my motivation. And also I wanted to be independent intentionally because I wanted to test myself. I wanted to know if I really can live on my own terms, on my own will, and if I really can decide. Because if I'm not gonna learn how to be independent, then who will teach me to do it? No one will
Yeah,
teach me.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Agree.
about you, Ate? I guess you were independent the day you were born.
Yeah, again, it's also part of who I am. It's a conditioning. Yeah, so that's the part that is out of my control. I may not be the firstborn, but it's kind of like hard to explain. In a
Mm.
way, in my father's side, I am the firstborn, right? Since
Yeah.
my older sister is only my half sister. But yeah, I think it's Interesting. I think it's really just realizing that I have to be, like I said this earlier, like, you cannot always like have other people around you, and yeah, you cannot always have other people, helping you out. And yeah, I think it's something that I also have to really reflect
Mm-hmm.
about on what really pushed me. But I think growing up, it's just really about, you know, like, I like doing things on my own from the very beginning. Like, I remember actually when I was, I think, in grade school, like I started doing
Mm-hmm.
crafts. Like, I'm always really creative, so I kind of like make
Mm.
envelopes,
Yeah,
or
I can attest to that.
yeah,
You being
plastic,
creative.
paper envelopes, or like those stationery things, and I would like make envelopes out of it. And yeah, it's interesting because I remember selling it in a way. It's the financial independence part, like
Yeah, yeah,
selling
yeah,
it to
yeah.
my playmates or to my
Classmates
neighbors.
or
Yeah, I would sell it for
yeah.
like 1 peso or 2 peso, like the envelope I would make, and I would craft it, put some stickers on it or put some
Mm-hmm.
things. And yeah, I think it's something that I enjoy, like being able to do things for myself
Mm-hmm.
and gaining something from it. uh
Yeah, true.
yeah, because it's not just you gain something from other people, but it's really empowering to be able to do things
Yeah.
on your own. And then,
Yes, truly.
just knowing that you can do it, right, that you have the ability,
Mm-hmm.
already is empowering, and it already boosts up your confidence. And how do I say, I think it's also, as I grow more mature, I learned, of course, the history, like how women are, as you've said earlier, right? Like in the Philippines, or
Yes,
even not just in the
yes.
Philippines, like globally, historically,
Globally,
women
women are,
are, didn't really have a
seen.
place in society, right? So as we learn more about that, as this generation's women, it's kind of like, a part of us is raging against that, and we kind of like
Mm-hmm.
want to become, who we are, not just what
Mm-hmm.
society or history, or the
Mm-hmm.
culture is telling us, what
Mm-hmm.
the society is telling us. Like, we want to become our own, right? Because again, I think if it's been historically applied to us, like, for hundreds or thousands of years, like women just belong in this part of the house, or you are not supposed to do this or that, or you should only do this or that. And as we
Yes.
learn more of that, it's in our own nature to kind of like go against that, because it's not easy, knowing all of these things, and even still growing up having these things, right? Like, maybe we
Mm-hmm.
have the same uh family history about, like our parents or our mothers
Mm-hmm.
are only at
Mm-hmm.
home, and they're very dependent on our
Mm-hmm.
father's income. And seeing that as a child, kind of like opens our eyes to how important it is to
Yes,
have
true.
our own,
I
and to
totally
be
agree with
alone.
that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
yeah, the personal factor of how empowering it is to just really do things for yourself on your own, and the
Mm-hmm.
historical, cultural, social factors that are involved.
Yeah, and all of those factors out there. But being independent doesn't mean that I am discrediting the help that I'm getting from people, or I want to
Yeah.
discredit the help that they're giving me, because actually those help are very vital for me to becoming who am I today. But what I meant about being independent is that even with the help, or even with the helping hands that are available, it's not an excuse for you to learn how to be independent, right? And just what
Yes.
you said earlier, we were open to situations like our mothers depending from our fathers, or our mothers kind of like forced to stay at home so that someone will look after the kids. Yeah, but when we grow up, we try to change that
We always wanted to become better than
scenario.
our
We try
parents,
to
right?
change the game, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Like, our parents are inspiration, but we always want to become better.
yeah,
Like, that's always something I
yeah,
think common in all of us. Like, we see our parents,
yeah,
and we somehow
yeah,
become better, even if they're actually really
yeah,
role models for us. I want to become,
Yeah,
or I
but I'm
want to
not
even be
saying
better.
that. Yeah, of course. But I'm not saying that mothers who are staying at home or mothers who chose to take care of their
Yes.
kids are.
Oh, it's a whole level of independence there. It's a
Yeah,
whole
it's a
level of
whole
struggle
level of
and
struggle.
hard
And
work.
yeah, I salute all mothers out there who chose to be like that, because it takes a big decision. It takes a great one woman to sacrifice something for herself, to give way to rearing her family, or building up a family. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
motherhood is a
give credit to
different,
them.
it's a different
Thing.
topic that we have to
Yeah.
talk about. But yeah, we're talking about choice here, right? Because I think one
Yeah.
factor as well when it comes to that, just a little bit of comment, is that uh basically, if we really think about it, in a way, they didn't have much choice, like especially
Mm-hmm.
people in the earlier generation, because again, it's been implied that
Mm-hmm.
women should do this or do that. So choice is
Mm-hmm.
not really there, right? Unlike us nowadays in our generation, we
Yeah.
actually have the choice. And I always talk about the power of choice and that we have to take the opportunity and use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's great. So I think that's it, the whole motivation thing. So right
Yeah.
now, let's talk about the next thing is uh, challenges or issues about being independent, and we can talk about financial, social uh, things here.
Factors or
Hmm.
whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I know there are really a lot of issues and challenges, and one thing is that the perspective that you get from people telling that being independent is like rallying against your parents, or you know being independent being independent means disrespecting your parents, or being independent means like setting boundaries between you and your parents. But for me, it's not really that. And but we can't deny that those challenges are still present, right? Given in the Filipino setting, or even with other countries.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, and
we can somehow put up these two questions, because I think part of who we are is really struggling to,
mm-hmm,
or to learn
mm-hmm,
or to be independent while growing up in a Filipino environment or culture, right? So we
mm-hmm.
can maybe just put up these two questions at once. So
Yes.
yeah, again, these two questions are challenges about being dependent, and yeah, what actually independence means growing up in a Filipino
Mm-hmm,
culture.
mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's really difficult at first, because sometimes you will be misunderstood, especially by your family and your friends. And yeah, and I really don't want to disrespect my parents. I don't want them to know, or to get a concept of me that I am actually in conflict with them, when in fact I am trying to grow a better version of myself. Yeah, I don't want them to get the concept that my daughter is trying to rebel against me. Oh my god. We
It's a
can't really
rebel.
blame our parents, because we were born in different generations. We were born in different contexts,
In
in
a way,
different
part of
eras, right?
growing and part of being independent is actually a rebellion, right? Even just us
Yeah.
women right now being independent and choosing to be independent is
Mm-hmm.
already a rebellion, again,
Yeah.
against history and culture and what society is telling
Mm-hmm.
us about who we are, right? So we always
Mm-hmm.
have to like fight against the grain in a way.
Mm, yes,
Mhm.
that's true. And I guess we are very lucky enough, because many women before us had already fought for this independence. When we talk about social independence, political independence, cultural independence, as
Mhm.
we can remember, before, women were not allowed to vote, women were not allowed to inherit something or to own something. But look at us now. We're owning ourselves. Char.
Yeah, to even
Yeah,
choose,
we're
right?
given.
Like at love,
Yeah,
we're not even uh we can't even marry for love before.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And even with let's say positions in government offices or positions in a workplace, women are given equal chances with men. And yeah, that's really great to know that women are evolving as human beings. There are not just women who stay at home. There are now women who are trying to make an impact in the world. Yeah, and I would love to see more women like that. And that is what I envision for both of us as well, as we are
We are
trying
already
to
becoming that.
we're trying to be independent. And another challenge is that, especially in the workplace or when you're
Mm.
with your friends may also misunderstood you, like, or may misunderstand you. For example, if you choose to work on your own, or if you try to make decisions on your own. Oh, have you already done that? Yes, I've done that already, so I did it myself.
Yep, yep.
Why didn't you wait for us? Like, oh, you're so selfish. Are you like that? Are you acting so weird? Why are you acting so, even if they're not saying it, but you can see it in their eyes. I guess we melancholic people are really good at reading people beyond
Yeah,
words.
the empathy.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, the empathy
I
thing.
do understand that, right? Sometimes being on our own is really in the Filipino culture, in the context of the Filipino culture, is really
Mhm.
so against it because like one thing that I have in mind right now is it's very difficult to be an individual or to be independent in a country that is fully dependent on a lot of things.
Mhm.
Right, like
Yeah.
even as a country, like we are very dependent, like even our culture is not our
Mhm, mhm,
own,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of like talking about sovereignty here and kind of like a global or the big sense of independence. But yeah, it's kind of like that when you are trying to be your own, since we have a lot of social norms that are considered
Mhm,
normal, even though
mhm.
some of it are actually really,
Yeah.
really toxic. uh, growing on your own and establishing your own success, for example, right? Sometimes people
Mhm.
can say, oh, you should give back, or you should do this,
Mhm.
or you should do that. And I
Mhm.
think that's also uh yeah, a huge challenge for us, as you
Mhm.
said, like in our families, right? Or even
Mhm.
in work situation.
Mhm.
so
Yes.
for example, in our
Sometimes,
families.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Being independent becomes a threat. I don't know, not to everyone, but to some people, they tend to see you as a threat. I don't know why where some people will try to
Yeah, well, it's
perceive
about
you as a
them.
threat.
Well, it's about
Yeah, well,
them,
it's
right?
their perception, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a challenge because you're not doing it for them, right? But they're seeing it that you're doing it because you're competing with them. Well, in fact, you're only competing with yourself and you're
Yeah, the
trying to be
crab
good in your
mentality
own.
in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's one bad habit of Filipinos, I guess. They try to pull others down instead of lifting each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
that's really a
Yeah, when you're
negative habit
succeeding,
of.
right? A
Mhm,
lot of people think that if one person is succeeding, maybe in if you are, let's say, in a group of friends, or as you said, in your work situation, like if these people are actually not healthy on their own or don't actually
mhm,
understand like the concept of independence and of supporting each
mhm,
other in a really healthy way,
mhm,
then it might mean your success can be,
mhm.
somehow like their failure in a way, because they're kind of like in a comparative lens or perspective.
Mhm, mhm.
So I think, yeah, that's something very toxic about. I think it's not just
Yes,
actually
that's
in
really
the
toxic, but
Filipino culture,
I guess that's something that we can choose not to think about
but
because
as a
that's their
woman too,
perception.
right? It's
Mhm,
difficult to succeed as a woman because I think that it's also very hard for us women to really support each other because we've been
mhm,
again conditioned as a whole to kind of like see each other as threats
Mhm.
or compete with each other, right? And like that's why, for example, we have this beauty standards, and then we feel like this is
Mhm.
going to be the standard, and then we try to be that person, and then we, by doing that, by actually submitting to these beauty standards, we are already a bit sacrificing our own individuality and how we can
Mhm.
just love our own selves, right? And
Mhm. Mhm.
like be who we
Yeah.
are, right? And own
Yes.
ourselves. Even just in the
Mhm.
very small example like that, like beauty standards,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
that we try to compete with each other. So if like the beauty standard
Mhm.
is being white, right? And then someone who has a
Yes.
darker skin would be uglier, or they, you would say that, oh, they're not good enough, or they're not worthy of whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's one culture about Filipino trying to have this white complexion, trying to unlove the beauty of being a morena, right? Because they wanted to
That's the white
have that.
products.
Yeah, I guess that's just a scheme of the beauty industry for they wanted to sell more and more products,
I think it's really
and
the
that
effect
has
of
get
colonization too. You know, the
yes,
I'm not
yes,
sure, but
yes,
I'm sure
yes.
you've heard about the right now there's a whole lot of movement happening in the black community. And again,
Black
it's
Lives
this
Matter
is very,
matter.
I mean, this is just a general perception of how, you know, like the white supremacy, like white people are always
Mm-hmm.
above all, right? And we have somehow uh how do I say? I'm lost for words here. We kind of like adapted that because, of course, we were colonized by a lot of white people, like Spanish, yeah, Americans,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
We
has
see them as
become
someone who
part of
are
us.
superior, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
so
people
even
who
that,
are white, yes. And because
while
they were our
naturally,
colonizers.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
while naturally we're actually dark skinned people, right? Short
Yeah.
people, or
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we are, less of a person or less of a race, less of a country because of our complexion. I guess Filipinos has this backward way of thinking, like still they're still in that era where Spaniards, where Americans are still in our country, and they are still thinking that if you are with this complexion, you have the power. This mental concept, this subconscious telling them that if you have this kind of beauty, if you have this kind of complexion, you will be as empowering with just like the American or
mm-hmm.
whatever race is that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just so saddening.
It is because that's what we see as well. Like it's, I think it's just new right now. Like it's the new norm to kind of like accept or to normalize morenas, for example, right? Like what we
Mm-hmm.
always see in the television is, you know, white people, like even maybe artists or celebrities who were once have darker skin.
Morenas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will like try, you know, all kinds of products, and they will advertise or use products that would actually lead them to being white or having a
Mm-hmm.
fairer skin. So anyway, that's just one struggle. I think culturally, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
cultural aspect of it. And I think this is something that we've talked about before, the breadwinner culture,
Yeah.
how it's very
Yeah,
difficult
yeah,
to
yeah.
establish our independence if we are breadwinners of the family, because we are always, as you've said, we have a huge chunk of responsibility given to us. And you know, in our culture, right, in the Philippines, like if you are the eldest, if you're the first one to graduate, if you're the first one to have the job, if you have a better job, then you support your family, then you know, feed your
Or
family,
yeah,
then you support all your other siblings to go
family
to schools
members
and
or what.
everything. Like your success should be their success too. And in a way, like I really see it like kind of like pulling you down, because it's very difficult right now. And this is something that I'm also struggling on my own. Like, how can I, uh, you know, put myself in a stable ground when I have this
Mm-hmm.
responsibility that is put up, that I also
Mm-hmm.
have to make all the other people in my family in a stable ground. So it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult, and it's really hard for me to kind of like uphold my own standard. Like, no, I have
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
establish my own,
I
because
understand.
how can I fill your cup if I don't even have my cup filled? So yeah, that's something very important, and I'm sure that you can relate to this as well. So yeah, share your insights on that, on the breadwinner culture and how that's a struggle.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you because even if we are, we have different ranks in our families. I am the eldest, you're the middle child, but still we
I'm still the
experience the same
breadwinner.
because we're,
I'm
yeah,
still the
we're
breadwinner.
in the, yeah, we're in the same setting trying to feed our families. Though it's not really, I'm not saying that I don't want to help my family, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
We feed
find
you.
joy. Actually, I find joy. It's a privilege for me because not everyone has been given the gift or the privilege to feed an entire family or to support an entire family. Only independent women like us. If
It's
you
kind of
see
like a
the other side of the,
blessing and a
yeah,
curse, right?
yeah,
It's a
but
blessing and a curse.
I don't want to romanticize that thing because I know that there are still many options. There are still many choices that we can do for ourselves. There are still many ways wherein we can take good care of ourselves while at the same time helping our families out. But it really is a struggle. And yeah, as like what you've said, how can you fill your cup if your own cup is still empty? Or how can you fill others' cup
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
yours is still empty, right? Like how can you give something that you don't have yet, right? So
Yeah, so you have to
for
deal
me,
with snide remarks and comments, right?
yeah,
I'm sure you're
I don't know.
experiencing this
You
too.
know what? Like people will say, "Oh, she already has a stable job. She got this job. You should build your own big house. You should buy this and all this stuff." And then sometimes my parents, well, I'm saying two personal things, but I just want to give a concrete example.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
guess many,
That's very
many Filipinos
welcome. And
can
the more we
relate to
share our
this.
vulnerabilities and our own experiences here, the more I'm sure a lot of people can relate, because I know it's not
I
just
am not,
us.
yeah, I am not saying this to, to degrade my family or to
It's the
the,
reality.
yeah, yeah, I'm just sharing my experience that even if I don't complain, I still find it a challenge to to multitask, like grooming myself to become my better version and at the same time supporting my family. Well, actually, I guess that's a skill. Yeah, the skill that we are learning over the years. And even if we are trying to be better, some people will always see the bad things of, the bad side of everything. And it's so saddening to know that even if you're trying your best, even if you're struggling, you're moving heaven and earth to make things possible, still they will see the negative part of what you're doing. Like, yeah, she's having this job, but still, and like that, she can't afford to buy this and that and that and that. Or in fact, they don't see the real picture.
It's just the tip of the
Your job
iceberg. Hmm.
your job won't give you a one-time paycheck like, oh, this 1 million has been given to you, you can buy anything. You still have to work, right? You still have to make both ends meet. Like you still have to work, you still have to work overtime, you still need to go to your office even if it's really late, or you still have to submit this and that even if it's against you because you need to support an entire family. And everyone doesn't see that. All they see is that if you have a job, you have money.
Hmm.
They don't.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm not
exactly.
really complaining, but I just wanted to try to change their perspective that your job is not a one-way ticket. It's not something that will give you a
And
fortune. It's something that
you don't earn like 1 million every month to build a house already.
it's, I don't know. Anyway, there are too many challenges or too many issues that I really wanted to share, but I guess it would take us a 24-hour conversation. And I want our audience to get what's important from
Audience.
us
I hope there
today.
are a lot of audience. But yes, it's
I can
really true.
I can correct my
You're
yeah.
right about that, and as independent people, right, we always have to go back to, again, lessening the external noise, right, the white noise, and
Mhm.
focusing on our own voices, and again, our
Mhm.
solitude. Like, that's very important, because just
Yes,
the
yes.
very factor that there are other people telling you what to do, what not to do, what you should do, and yeah, it becomes very difficult to establish our own needs or wants, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes it even makes us feel guilty. Admit that,
Yeah.
right? The guilt tripping in the Filipino culture is
Yeah.
is huge, but yeah, it's something that we all have to somehow understand, as
Mhm.
people who understand ourselves more. As we understand ourselves more and what we want, is better for us to also kind of like just understand where other people are coming from. Like, I totally get you, and I also get a lot of those comments, like, especially I'm outside of the Philippines right now, and we have this you know how do I say, belief that, oh, if you are already outside of the Philippines, or if you are working outside of the Philippines, you're rich. I wish I am. But yes, it's yeah, and also I married a foreigner, right? I married
Yeah.
someone who's not from the Philippines, and they kind of like think, oh, she must actually like get a lot of support, but
Yeah, I
it's not the
totally
case. I
understand
just want a
that
little, like,
notion that when you
whisper that
marry a
I
foreigner.
earn more than him. But yes, well, that's the truth there, and that's not something that I feel like I have to explain to a lot of people. Like, before, like when we were living in the Philippines, right? Like, I I get a lot of these comments and indirect comments as well. Like, oh, since you are with a person, or since you are with a foreigner, then he must have a lot of money, or that, you will have a better life because you have a foreigner husband, for example, something like
Mhm.
that. And yeah, it's just about cutting off this, noises, and kind of like letting it pass from one ear to
Mhm.
the other, so that you don't get
Yeah,
affected.
true.
Because if you don't establish inner peace, then it's very difficult to cultivate self-love and,
Mhm.
independence. Because,
Mhm.
just the fact that we can listen and we can get affected by other people's words or behaviors, then that already somehow tells us that maybe we're not that independent, right? Because
Mhm. Yes,
if
true.
we let it pass through us, and if we actually get affected in many ways, like mentally, emotionally, right? If we let those things affect us that way, then maybe we have to strengthen more of that independence, that inner
Mhm.
voice that actually cultivates what is actually
Mhm.
valuable, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, it's hard, but we're always
Mhm.
going against the flow here, or even just accepting things, but at the same time not tolerating, right? Accepting and understanding, but not tolerating, uh,
Mhm.
because yes, if we do that, then our independence will be compromised in a lot of ways.
Yes, and I guess learning how to be independent is not a one night thing. It's really a process, and if you wanted to be an independent person, you have to go through the painful process, the painful growth process that you have to learn to discard the outside noise. You have to learn to love yourself first and then
Yeah,
try to
choosing
give what
yourself.
you already have. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
choosing yourself, because as what we have discussed earlier, how can you give something that you don't have, right? How can you love others if you haven't learned to love or to embrace your totality as a person? How can you learn to appreciate the things that are happening if you can't appreciate yourself, your
Exactly. Yeah.
limitations, your
Yeah.
weaknesses?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You
Yes.
have to accept who you are as who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? The whole you, flaws
Yeah.
and all, so that you can also understand other factors, other people, and accept
Mm-hmm.
them for who they are without having to feel like maybe you are responsible for that, right? So, yeah, I think it goes back to how independence is really about choosing ourselves first and doing things
Mm-hmm.
for our own selves, doing things on our own
Mm-hmm.
as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to choose ourselves in a society where we're kind of like, like we have this belief like you have to be nice, and being nice somehow
Mm-hmm. Yes.
includes a lot of people, like maybe,
Yes.
just being not okay with what people say, right? Like, oh, since you have to be nice, maybe I just have to smile when they say, like when you were saying before, like when you commented, oh, Marian, you look so thin, and maybe being nice would be just, oh yeah, but that's not okay, right? For example, things like that. So yeah, again, choosing yourself and choosing to kind of like uphold
Yes.
or
True. Choosing
honor
yourself.
your values, right? And speaking up when you need to. And yeah, even if that means going against or being a rebel in a way, I think
Mm-hmm.
have to in a way if that's what it takes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
And
I
just to emphasize that choosing yourself doesn't mean that you're selfish or that you are self-centered,
no,
because you really have to empower yourself first to give back to everyone, right? Because if you don't have the force in you,
the
how can
force in
you
you.
support others, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So you have
And
to
it
have this
really
internal
takes
belief.
courage. Yeah. Takes courage and bravery to do that.
Hope. Yeah, and hope and trust, again, trust in yourself, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Because
of
you cannot be
course.
self-reliant if you're so used to just trusting or looking out
Mm-hmm.
for others, right? You have to actually look from within. What can I do, right? What can I actually do? What is in my control here, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how
Yeah,
can
yeah, of
I
course, of course.
manage it? So yes,
Yeah. You really
I think. Oh, go ahead if you still have something else
you
to
really
say.
have to identify the things that you can control and the things that you can control, because that's the starting point where you can set limitations for yourself, because being independent meaning doesn't mean that you are powerful. It doesn't mean that you can solve every problem. It doesn't mean that
No,
you can pay every bill that will come.
it's not a
It doesn't mean
superpower.
that you can, yeah, being independent doesn't mean that you can buy everything. It means being forgiving to yourself, being, patient with yourself, that, yeah, you need to undergo the process. You need to fall down, and each time you fall down, there's a learning, there's a lesson, and then that one great lesson will really help you to finally become
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
independent woman that you are aspiring to be.
In a way, just allowing ourselves to go through life and
Mm-hmm.
accept things as we go, learn things as we go, right?
Yes, of
And
course.
yeah, we might be talking about going against the grain here, but it's really all about acceptance as well. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, somehow knowing, yeah, what can we go against with, and what are the things that we just have to go with the flow with too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because those are two different things. And life is composed of light and darkness, right? And we have to know what is light
Yes,
here, what is darkness here, how can I
exactly.
manage myself in the dark, and how can I use this light, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting
Yeah.
metaphorical here, but yeah, that's okay. So I think we have to go to the next question now, or the
Yes.
I think we have last two questions. So
Last two
how
questions
important it is
before
to be
we end.
independent as a woman. I think we've discussed this, right? How important it is to be
Yes.
independent as a woman. And yeah, here tips to wanna be independent.
As if we're professionals
Yeah.
in the field of independence. As if
Oh,
naman, di ba?
yep. So yeah, from
Yeah, I
one
guess you
courageous
go first.
trying to be independent soul woman to another, I think it's just really about it's difficult, but I think experimenting on things that you like. I think one thing that I really did for myself before is, okay, socially is I really challenge myself to eat out alone. That's so difficult for me before,
Yeah.
because I always think, oh, if I eat alone, I would look so pitiful. I would look like a like a sad person eating on her own, because I'm so
Yeah.
used to like eating with friends. Like even when I was in high school, I have like this group of friends, and when we have fights, I go home on my own. Like I don't eat I don't eat with, I mean, and in the cafeteria, because I feel like that would be so embarrassing. And yeah, when I went to college, though, that's something that I have to uh really develop and really embrace.
Mhm.
Like I have to be okay being on my own, even if I actually have you and a lot of people from the pub, right? Like we always invite each other out. But yeah, even just eating out alone or going out alone, going to the cinemas alone, like enjoying the things that I actually mostly do with other people, challenging myself to do those things or do those activities on my own, like traveling alone, even if
Mhm.
it's just to the next city, or even if it's
Mhm.
just the closest place that you can, like
Yes, yes.
exploring that part of me wherein I can actually handle things on my own. Yeah, so I think that's it. Try doing things that you usually do with other
Yes.
people on your own, right? And yeah, I think making use of your alone time as time for to practice, I mean, yeah, time to practice acceptance, right? Maybe if you just want to just be, right? Like if you don't want to do anything, or if you actually want to learn a new skill, or if you want to spend this time in something productive, right? So whatever you decide to do with your own time when you're alone, like accepting that and kind of like enjoying that. And
Mhm.
financially, I think it's save money, and yeah, because I've always had this, like even before when I was in high school. Again, personal experience, I only have like 25 pesos
Mhm.
allowance every day, but I managed to even save money from that, because instead of taking two jeepney rides, I would take one jeepney ride, even if it would take me to walk for some time. Like I would do that for me to save money. So it's about prioritizing whatever you want to do, and financially it's about saving up when you can, so that you can actually, you don't always have to ask for money, like when you're still a student, for your parents, like because our parents can always give us anything.
True enough.
Maybe yeah, that only applies to us poor middle class people. but uh but yeah, establishing that, because yes, I managed to save money even when I had only 25 pesos allowance. And yeah, I grew up as a scholar, so basically my mother and my father, my parents didn't actually spend that much of money, but still it was very difficult since we are living in a financial condition that wasn't really sustainable to like feed three
Mhm.
people, three children, right? So yeah, be or having a resource of your own, right? Whatever that is. And make use of your talents, make use of your skills, right? So
Yes.
as I've said, I had like skills of like making things, making stuff up, and I kind of like use that even in a little way. Even in kind of like capitalizing before as a child, like as a really little child,
Mhm.
capitalizing on my, let's say, my grandfather's request of like plucking white hair. So I would save up like the 1 peso that I get, so I can actually
Mhm.
maybe play the, those internet things before, like those
Yeah,
little
yeah,
machines. So I could play that, or
yeah.
maybe I could buy the candy that I want and things like that. So yeah,
True.
capitalizing on what you can do, and yeah, what you can get as well. I think that's it. What else? Politically, what are the other aspects that when we talk about when it comes to independence? So that's socially, that's financially, and that's personally. Um, what else? Yeah, I think it's just about really knowing your values. Like
Mhm.
this is something I think sensitive, but spiritually, I think, or when it comes to
Yeah.
religious, because again, Filipino is very dependent on the religious aspect
Mhm.
of it, right? Like most of our beliefs come from being Catholic or being Christian, right? Or whatever the religion is. So I think it's just about really taking that in for yourself and not being dependent on just one a certain belief, right? Or because most of these beliefs are, how do I say, like a social construct. So how can we
Mm-hmm.
take in this huge social construct and actually be comfortable with it on our own? Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, when it comes to the spiritual aspect, like I really just gained a lot from what it is to be Christian and what are the good parts of being that or having this belief, and also learning other stuff and taking it for myself so I can have a belief of my own, a spiritual belief or faith of my own that I can say, I am confident with and I am living. And yeah, makes me relate to many other people. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, family wise is to just, like really understand your family, right? And
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to be yourself and to like find your own identity, whether you're having a hard time establishing your own identity or your own your yeah, your individual self, maybe in your family relationship or your own romantic relationship, right? Because these
Mm-hmm.
relationships can somehow overpower us, like they can
Mm-hmm.
define us in many ways. So it's very important to have your own individualistic belief of who you are, like defining who you are outside of any kind of relationships, right? Sometimes we define ourselves a lot by, maybe being uh, uh, our jobs. Like maybe we define ourselves as, I am like this, I have this career, or I am in a relationship with this person, or like that. But defining who you are outside of your relationships, right? Like who you are, who you feel you are, and how you define yourself as just you, right? Without all
Mm-hmm.
these other factors. So I think that's it. It's really kind of like, yeah, that's it. That's how I can sum up of like how to be or how to cultivate independence within oneself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I've talked too
Yeah,
much
so
there, but go ahead and share yours because you are
yeah, so
a woman. So that's something that you can share.
I don't know if I can add anything because I'm actually learning from this conversation, and there are many things that I think I need to relearn, and I am really thankful for this conversation that we are having right now. Like, yeah,
It's easier like this.
it's really refreshing, refreshing. There are many things that I have already forgotten, but thanks to this time that it reminded me of the many values, the many wonderful things about being independent that I really need to revisit. Mm-hmm. But for me, I guess the first thing is about finding your inner voice. Yeah, you really have to find yourself, who you want to become. You have to set your goals, or you have to really figure out that woman or that person that you wanted to be, because that's where you're going to start. That's where you will start planting yourself, cultivating yourself as an individual. Because when you find your voice, this is the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, kidding aside. Because when you finally,
The voice.
found your voice,
Now
you
the
really
humor is
have to,
coming up. The humor of
because it's
independent
getting
women.
late, it's getting late. Yeah. Because if you will, find your voice, I guess you will have the drive, you'll have the motivation. Well, as for me, during this pandemic, during this lockdown, I was able to revisit the things that I really love to do. And when I found those things, I figured out that, yeah, it's really nice and it's really refreshing. It's really, I find joy in doing those things. And if you find that thing, or if you find those things, you're lucky enough because you have your starting point already. And next is when it comes to social acceptance, just try to discard the outside noise. Even if it's challenging, even if it's hard, you have to exercise to really not listen to those negative voices. Where
Mm-hmm.
there are many things that you have to listen to, those like constructive criticisms, those will help you out. But
Mm-hmm.
try to eliminate the things that you don't see helpful for your growth. Try to eliminate those toxins. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
because if
what you
you
said
will
is
be,
really good. Like finding your or identifying yourself among the crowds, right? Kind of something like that.
yes, yeah, finding yourself. And when I say you have to find yourself, you don't have to, to be somebody out there, or to be someone. You have to be yourself, not that someone. So you have to accept who you are first, and then if you will accept your self, that's the time where you can start to cultivate the skills, your inner abilities, and that's the time where you will accept that there are things that you can't do. Yeah, because when you accept and then you become patient with yourself, I guess you will be more productive and effective as an independent woman.
Yeah, as an
And
independent
then one
person
thing,
too, right? I think that applies to all, like
yeah,
what you're
and
saying.
oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And getting back to my second point, like discarding the negative noise, discarding the toxins. Yeah, you really have to, even if it means losing connection with that person. It's really okay, as long as it's good for your mental health. It's good for your health in
Again, that's
general.
choosing yourself, right? Sometimes
Yes,
choosing
choosing
yourself is the
yourself.
most difficult decision
Yes,
to make, but it's necessary for our growth.
yes. Choosing yourself can mean unfriending someone, unfollowing someone. Choosing yourself can mean blocking someone, or since we are living in a digital world, we are connecting people via social medias, and I believe that most of the negative vibes are coming from those platforms. So I guess that's the starting point. And for your physical world, you try to be, as professional as you can. You don't really have to have a fight with that person, but try to be professional as much as you can. Try to compose yourself, because how you
Cordial.
will, yeah,
Cordial.
of course. eh, Try not to be a toxic person, I guess. Even if that person is toxic on you, try not to be toxic, because that will reflect who you are, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and the next thing is that find something that you can, you know, spend time aside from the job that you have, just like
Yeah.
what you're doing, Ije. I'm really a fan of Ate Jerian. If you didn't know, she is really an artist on her own. Like, she's a musician, she's a painter, she's a poet, she's everything. Shut up.
Sulen. I want to be Sulen when I grow up. When I grow up, I want to
Yeah,
be
Solen
Sulen.
is really, yeah, I'm starting to love Solen as well. Especially she's having her baby and she's really cute. Anyway, yeah, you really have to find something that you find interesting, or something that will make you productive while having your major job, right? Because that will add
Yeah.
color
Mm-hmm.
to your
Yeah,
life.
yeah. Again,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we identify ourselves just with our careers, right? Like I know being a
Mm-hmm.
teacher in the Philippines is so stressful. So kind of
Yes,
like
of course.
separating yourself from that, right? Like aside
Mm-hmm.
from being a teacher and aside from putting up like maybe more 24 hours a day in this job, like who am I outside being a teacher, right?
Yes, of course.
Establishing activities that's just really for yourself, because yeah, it's very
Yeah,
difficult.
I really can't imagine myself only doing the job of a teacher. I might die at an early age. Ah, so sorry for saying that. I
Uy,
really,
simba ko. Tuktok pala yun.
you know, I'm not cursing my profession, because I love my profession.
But
What I'm
it's
trying to say is
stressful. The stress levels are
it's really
here.
stressful. The system, the kids. If you will try to focus on your job, you will lose control of your life. You really have to, take a breathe of fresh air and try new things. Like for me, I decided to put up my own online store. Because as a kid, I grew up in a family where most of our relatives are doing businesses, though theirs are very big. Mine is just a startup. But in that, in that area, I can pour out my creative juices, my energy, something that I get excited about, even if I don't earn a million, but it's
Yeah.
something that it's something that makes me alive again. Aside from doing my teaching job, it keeps me growing. It keeps me
The
creating
vlogging.
vlogging. Oh my god, no, not the vlogging. Vlogging is just as my side hustle. If vlogging is something that I do on occasionally. It's not an everyday thing. It's like how writers do their pieces. It's you're waiting for a magical moment. No, not really magical, but you're waiting for a time where you can think of something, or I'm bored and then, oh, I want to take videos, or I want to
I want to record myself.
record. That's so weird.
It is. It
Because
is.
I find vlogging as a weird thing to do, especially recording yourself. I
It's
just
crazy,
recently
right?
discovered the art of recording yourself. What's the point of recording yourself? Talking to yourself. Because
Yeah.
for the
Recorded
few months,
self-talk. That's it.
yeah, you
Vlogging
know what?
equals
Like,
recorded self-talk.
self talk. Like, you know what? Like, speaking yourself out loud. It's like that.
Yeah, it's a practice. It's a
It's a practice.
skill. Mhm. Getting
Because
comfortable
before
in
I'm
front of a camera while you're
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
just talking
But
to yourself.
yes, of course. Before, I'm just fond of compiling videos, editing videos that I took out from trips or from events that I went to, and I really don't take videos of me because that's too awkward. Oh my goodness, that's too awkward. I guess that's not me if I take videos of myself.
Yeah.
But just recently, why not? Like, why shouldn't I try?
Again, it's part of the exploration of the self, right?
Part of the experimentation, as what you have said earlier.
Yes. And again, pandemic, right? The pandemic is
Yeah,
kind of like
pandemic. And
making
in the
everyone
financial
crazy.
side, yeah, for the financial side, I guess I would want to connect that on the hobby that you have, right? If that hobby is something that you can earn money from, well, that's really good. Well, I'm not saying that you really have to find a hobby that will give
Hmm.
you 1 million peso, but it's nice if you find something that will let you earn aside from the job that you have.
Yeah.
Well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't say, yeah, yeah, of course. And it's really helpful, especially during these trying times. It's not me, it's not only my parents or having a financial difficulty during this pandemic. I guess everyone is experiencing that recession, that financial crisis. Even our government is
Let's not get
asking
into
so
that,
much.
Marian.
Yeah, we're not getting there, but we're just, you know.
Side comment only.
Yeah, and really have to. So before, I am really shy at selling. People will tell, oh, she's so beautiful, she's selling na. Naghihirap na ba siya? Wala na ba siya makain? Oh my God. You know, I was trained by my mother to sell at an early age. I started selling when I was in grade 1. Yeah, I started selling, and then at
Munchkins.
first I was
Yama.
no, not it's yama. The all-time favorite delicacy of Filipinos, the yama.
Filipino
Yeah,
students.
Filipino students. And at first I was really shy. How would I pull this out? Like, how would I sell this to my classmates? Like, hello, hello world, I'm selling.
Yama mo diha.
Oh, yo, diya, tag-piso lang, pwede utang.
I
But when
can't.
I
Oh
really
my
tried
god.
it, I find joy in selling. I find joy in selling, even if I, s- I was still introvert that time. I find it a joy to actually save money. Just like what you've shared earlier, that earning from the stuff that you do is something to be happy about. Yeah, you're like doing for yourself. You're saving money for yourself because you don't wanted to You don't want to, always ask from your parents every time you have a project, especially if you're still a student, right? It's being a student will give you financial difficulties, so you really have to have side extras or whatever. Yeah. Even as an adult, even as
More
someone who
as an
already
adult.
has a job, you
Mhm.
really have to strive more and more.
Because bills.
Should I say you have to sell 1,000 yamas a day?
Goal. Quota.
Yeah, it's a trap. Adulting is a trap. If you want to be an adult, stop it. Char. Enjoy. You know what? I just like to share this. When I was a kid or when I was a teenager, I find people who are already adult. I envied them, or I got jealous with people who are already adults because they have the money to buy themselves a pair of shoes, or they have the chance to go somewhere they wanted to go, or they have the ability to control their life. So I got jealous and I want to, I want to go time traveling and be an adult
Already.
tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But here am I, and I don't want adulting anymore. It's a trap. Adulting is a trap.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, with more freedom, right? Because as an adult we have a lot of freedom. Like we can choose our jobs.
Yes,
It
yes.
might be difficult to find a job, right? But we can choose what we want. We can choose, if we don't like our jobs, we can choose to quit and find another job. It's kind of like a continuous challenge and struggle. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we have to kind of like enjoy the journey. So yeah, it's kind of like quote unquote what I always like tell, like with more freedom comes more responsibility, in a way, because
Responsibility.
it's not just responsibility for others but responsibility for yourself, because being independent takes a
Mm-hmm.
lot of uh effort, right? Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, you're actually an adult who's living on your own. Like I may
Mm-hmm.
not be able to actually live on my own, but I have lived away from my parents, right? And when I started living with my now husband, when we were still together, before when we were boyfriends and girlfriends, so we were living on our own and we were managing our own finances. How can we put together all of our income and pay the water bill, pay the rent, pay the all the things right now. And yeah, even as we progress, like how can we save up to buy a house, how where are we gonna, things like that. So it has a lot of financial budgeting, but also, as you've said, putting up a life that's actually just for yourself, right? Because as an
Mm-hmm.
adult, uh, so we can be happy, so we can sustain our lives, we have to have a job, right? And our job
Yes.
takes a lot of time already, right? Maybe it takes 60% of our week,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or maybe
Yeah.
even more, right? So yeah, it's a lot of balancing and it takes a lot of effort, so it's not easy, it's not easy to be an adult.
Yeah, it's not really easy.
If only, right? If only.
If only it's an overnight thing, or there's a course that I can get, then after that course I will be independent. I will definitely enroll in that course. But adulting and being independent is a case to case basis. There isn't really a one night formula that will fit for everyone. It is really a personalized journey. And what we're trying to tell you shouldn't be the only things that you have to
Of
learn. Well,
course.
these are just for us, right? this,
Again, this is chit chat
this is it.
shared.
Yeah.
Chit chat shared
And
online.
yeah, of course. And I'd like to add that being an independent means that you have the control over your emotions, over your feelings. It's not just having the control over the toxic people, but it's being in charge of your own emotion, of
I'm
your
just laughing
own
because the chickens are
thoughts.
now uh
It's getting midnight here in the
yeah,
Philippines.
I know. But yes, you're absolutely right. Again, it's taking control not just of the external, but mostly of the internal,
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? The internal dialogue, because
The
we
internal
are
chaos that you are
itself, yeah, we are
experiencing.
itself like a walking chaos in a way. Like our minds always are filled with a lot of things, and being able to manage these thoughts alone, like our thoughts and feelings alone, already is independence on its own, right? So yeah, that's really good. And of course, these are just thoughts of wannabe or still, on our way to actually be independent people. But I think we are already, in our own ways.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Yeah.
already
In our own
being
right.
independent. Yes. So yeah, I think it's very important to just, I think it's really important for a lot of us or for everyone to just really reflect, like, am I independent now? And if I'm not, right, how can I establish ways so I can lead myself there? Because being independent is actually really freeing feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
When even though it takes
Yeah.
a lot for us to be here, or we go through a lot of challenges to be here, it is exciting to be independent, like to have your own job and kind of like feel like you actually have control, like, okay, when am I going to plan my next trip? Okay, what am I going to buy as a dinner? Right? Even just little things like that. Oh, what can I buy with my money? Or how can I spend time after work? So taking control of your life in little ways like that, even if it's just, oh, I have
Mm-hmm.
to wake up and take shower, or like go to this place, something
Even
like
the
that.
small things, they
Mm-hmm.
entail independence. Yeah, and I really miss, honestly, I miss living alone. I miss living all by myself because when transferred to our hometown, I am really pampered by my parents. They cook for me. Sometimes they wash clothes for me. They wash my clothes because I am too busy at work. I can't really take care of myself actually. And yeah, I miss living alone. But as I have analyzed, living alone is not the only, let's say, the only element of being independent,
Yeah.
because being independent is seen how you act when you are in a crowd or when you are with your family. How do you try to stand for your decisions? How do you stand for yourself, even with the presence of people, even with the presence of your parents? Well, that's not to really to disrespect your parents, but how are you going to defend yourself? Why
Yeah.
do you need to decide for this stuff? Why
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't your parents, let's say, why shouldn't your parents do this stuff for you because you are trying to be in charge of yourself even with their presence? And yeah, it's really liberating to be independent, and it's nice that you know what are the things that you are capable of, what are the things that you don't know yet. And it's nice to learn the process, it's nice to experiment, it's nice to take that adventure actually.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. It
And
of course it will always be uncomfortable at first, right? It will always be overwhelming at first. Like the
yeah.
moment you graduate, or even just the moment you move out from your parents' house and live in a dormitory, or an
Mm-hmm.
apartment, if you are studying in a very far away university, like in your case, right? Like it can be very
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming, but it's a very exciting journey. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just about really seeing the journey and the struggles as an adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And enjoying parts of it. And it's okay if you don't enjoy parts of it, because not every part
Mm-hmm.
of a journey is enjoyable, right? And it's
Yeah.
okay to complain, it's okay to feel bad, like all of those things are okay. But at the end of the day, what we have to like think is, at the end of the day, am I happy? If I am, okay, I'm gonna celebrate that. If I'm not, then what can I do to make myself happy? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really just establishing your own happiness, right? Establishing your own
Mm-hmm.
self, like amidst
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yes. You don't need to be actually someone to be happy. You just need to be yourself because you know it within you, right? You can't fake happiness at all. Sometimes siguro when you are in a crowd and then you try to smile, you try to be happy, they will say that you're happy, but deep inside you're still struggling, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So independence really is being genuinely happy with where you are right now, with the things that you're currently doing. Being independent is choosing to be happy, whatever or wherever you are, whatever you are undergoing, because that means that you are the in charge of your own reactions to the situations that you are in, and then you are not allowing those circumstances to eat you up as a person. And I guess that's really what independence is all about for
Yep.
everyone, not just for women but for everyone.